If you do that, you also can't ever leave it and sell it.
Correct.
Okay. So your business has no value beyond what it makes you today. If you position your team correctly, you now have a team that can go with it. You become less about the business as far as actually being the business. Now you just become the figurehead and the rainmaker for it. That business can be sold. That business can be passed down. That business has value.
What if the biggest threat to your real estate business isn't the market, isn't your lead flow, and isn't even your competition, but the way your business is built? Welcome back to the Real Estate Roundtable. I'm your host, Lancelot Lenard, top producer with Photo Homes Realty Mortgage and leader of the Sir Lancelot Group, bringing clarity and smart strategy to one of the most competitive real estate markets in the country. Today's guest is someone who's about to change the way you think about growth forever. We're joined by Joe Patneaude, financial service leader, executive coach, and creator of the STAR Scalability Method, a strategic framework that's helped founders and advisors turn chaos into clarity, overcome growth ceilings, and finally scale sustainability. With 25 plus years in operations, compliance, and C-suite leadership, Joe has transformed businesses from the inside out. He's the author of Follow the Star, Unlock Momentum Business Growth, a contributor to Brainz Magazine, and a coach trusted by leaders across the country. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like your business depends a little too much on you, this is this episode you cannot afford to skip. Joe, before we dive into the STAR method, I'd love to start with you. What was the moment in your career when you realized the biggest growth challenge businesses face aren't about leads, but something deeper?
I think the first thing I would say about that is that there's never really one moment, right? It's a culmination of a 25-year career. But really, that moment just comes from the clarity of when you realize you've hit a wall and you can't go any further without doing something different. Everybody in a service-based business, whether it's financial services or real estate, is going to have that moment where they realize, I'm doing all I can realistically do, but I need or want more. And how do I get there? And that moment of clarity really comes at that moment. And you realize you either have to make a complete shift or you have to at least realign where you started from. And then you have to get back to why you started there.
Got you. That makes a lot of sense, my friend. You say most service-based businesses, especially in real estate, hit a ceiling. What's really causing that ceiling, and why doesn't more hustle fix it?
There's only so many hours in the day, right? That's the first and I would say the most obvious problem. But really it comes down to a misalignment. It's usually an unclear strategy or just how you're positioning the time and the resources that you have. And whether those resources are team members, software, any marketing, anything that you have, any intellectual property, if it's not all aligned to work together, you're always going to be fighting against yourself for more time. And one thing I like to ask everybody is stop and think about how many hours you work in a week. Let's say you work 60 hours, just to be generous, because honestly, most of us that are entrepreneurs work more than that. But if I say to you, take 20% of it, that's 12 more hours a week. What could you do with 12 more hours a week? And what if you could get that 12 hours from just realigning what you already have? That's where the impact comes in. But that's why people are hitting a growth ceiling, is because they're trying to just continue to do more and more. And let's be honest, we work in a world where everybody admires the hustle. We go brag with our friends at the golf club or at the bar and say, oh man, I put in 80 hours this week or whatever. And in reality, a lot of us should be bragging about the fact that we only put in 40 and got paid for 80. And that's what we're all trying to do.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of definitely want to put in 40 and make 80 hours worth of money. And then of course your worth is as well, like how you value yourself. Oh, I did 80 hours of work. It's like, how much did you get paid? Did you get paid $100 an hour? Did you get paid 200, 300, 400? Because if you're doing 80 hours a week and you're getting paid $500 an hour, that's pretty fucking easy. I'm not,
Yep.
and if you're just getting paid $20 an hour, then you're like, oh, I did 80 hours of work and I could have made that flipping burgers at McDonald's, let's say,
Right.
without just show up, clock in, clock out kind of job. Then your entrepreneurial spirit is not where it really should be.
Exactly.
The goal is to grow that number, your worth, higher and higher. So your STAR method, strategy, team, assets, rewards, has become a game changer. Can you walk us through what each pillar represents and why missing even one of them leads to burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really starts with your strategy. And I say that you really want to go back to why you're doing what you're doing. And I mean that beyond the money, of course. It's easy for all of us to look and say, oh, I want to make a certain number. But why? Get down to the real root cause. For some people, it's, family. For some people, it's travel. For some people, it's supporting loved ones in other ways. There's a lot of reasons why you might be doing your business, and also what you want from your business. Do you want freedom? Are you looking just for high income? What's really the reason you're doing what you're doing? Excuse me. Sorry about that.
You're good, man. Service without purpose is
Yeah,
meaningless. So here comes that. You got to
exactly.
find that purpose.
Exactly. So when you get back to your why, then you understand your purpose. And the strategy is what's going to tell you where to focus your energy. Okay. Now, your team, for any of you who are out there and building your teams or have a team, having that team aligned with your strategy is what's going to take that energy and really direct it into the right places. Your assets, and again, assets is going to talk about your systems, your processes, your intellectual property, your tech, everything really is included in that. That is what's going to be the multiplying effect. And so I always tell everybody, look, if you have chaos and just a mess in your business and you throw more tech at it, you're going to just multiply the chaos. And that's true really with any of those assets. I use tech only as an example. But the assets are going to be the exponential multiplier for your energy. And then rewards, this is the one that people like to argue with me on because everybody's so focused on results in the world we live in, right? You can't listen to any coach talk and not hear you've got to measure results, be results focused. There is a difference between rewards and results. Okay. I'm also a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. And what I will tell you is that you will get more of what you focus on. If you focus on results, which can be 0 or negative, you will get more 0 and negative. What you want to do is you want to focus on the rewards, which tie back to your original why. What is your vision? What is your purpose? Your rewards are what motivate you to get the results. The results are simply a measure of how far you've come. And that's really the big key component. Now, if any of those are missing or misaligned, you end up fighting the biggest, most ugly monster any business can have, and that is yourself. You end up fighting your own vision. You end up fighting against your own team and destroying your culture. You end up fighting the tools that you're paying for, and you end up not getting the rewards. Because with any one of those is out of alignment, they all fall apart.
Oh, for sure. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, and where focus goes, energy flows. One of his main teachings that I took away from the university, and I use it every day. And if you focus on negative, you get negative. If you focus on positive, you get positive. And it's your brain creating this. It is insane, like the law of attraction. I totally believe in that. I'm like, I used it. It works. Guys, just you gotta put your mind to it, and you can build it. But you have to have a clear vision of what you want too. And that's why the why, what you're talking about, is really important, is getting that vision in front of you and say, I want to reach this in my life. And then Tony has this practice is look at it from like a bird's eye view and then zoom in closer and then zoom in closer and then zoom in closer. And until it's like super sharp, you keep zooming in on it. That's what he basically does that when he teaches. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of things that a lot of agents I know, we have vision boards. Vision boards are amazing. It's an amazing product that will get you to your goals because you're looking at it every day. Make sure it's in a place where you can look at it every day, correct? You use those too, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Come on. These are small little things that you think, oh, you don't need to do that. Oh, I don't believe in this. No, none of that. Correct. Yeah, you're focusing on the negative side of things. Try to look at it as in engraving it into yourself and then utilizing that and making it even better for generations or your team. Talking about teams, you talked about teams for a little bit, but I also think that a really good, cohesive, how do you call that? Not just the team itself, but the environment that you create for that team.
Yeah.
It's
The
really
entire
important.
culture.
Yeah, culture. Yes,
Yep.
that's what I'm talking about. The culture is the main, I think, definer of your business. If you have a good culture, you attract good people and you keep going and everybody's eating the culture. And you are too, because this is what we're doing. This is awesome. Let's keep going. We're helping people while we are doing our jobs, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And to expand on that a little bit, culture is so important, right? A lot of us who are entrepreneurs have also worked in corporate worlds, and we've seen it from both sides, is what I'm getting at. We understand, A, how difficult it is to be part of a culture, but also how difficult it can be to lead it. And I would challenge the assumption even that a lot of people say, well, you just have to follow these steps and you're going to lead this great culture and everybody's going to want to work for you. There's some truth to that, but I think it's an oversimplification.
Yeah.
A big part of it is that you have to build your team with people who have the same why that you do. Because then, A, culture will start to take care of itself to some extent because everybody's going to be aligned for the same goals. You're not trying to train someone to care, which is frankly almost impossible anyway. But that culture is also going to be what drives the decision-making process. So if you know that you've got people who have the same values that you do and are working towards the same goals that you're working towards, then the decision-making process becomes easier, which also makes your delegation process a lot easier. Because the reality is that, especially here in the real estate world, right? So much of our business is based off of us and the relationship that we have with a client, for example. And that's true, in my opinion, across the real estate in general, whether you're selling houses, flipping them, whether you're property managing, whether you're doing commercial real estate, I really think it applies everywhere, is that we get trained to think that we are the business. If you do that, you also can't ever leave it and sell it.
Correct.
Okay. So your business has no value beyond what it makes you today. If you position your team correctly, you now have a team that can go with it. You become less about the business as far as actually being the business. Now you just become the figurehead and the rainmaker for it. That business can be sold. That business can be passed down. That business has value.
Correct. I totally agree with you on that. And that's a lot of people. I think I just recently interviewed someone. We had a conversation about exit strategies in real estate. She's also in Tampa, by the way. She's a VA, and she's like, I can sell my business. And we had this conversation about it. Is what is a real estate agent's business worth? If it's you alone selling houses, your business is worth whatever you bring in, but you can't really sell it because you're not selling yourself. You're trying to sell your systems and your background stuff, and somebody might buy it for 10,000, but you're like, hey, I'm bringing in 6, 7 figures, whatever, a year, but it's not really worth 6, 7 figures unless you're there. And
Exactly.
that's why the culture is really important. You build the culture up and you bring the team in, and then you're like, hey, I'm basically just overseeing the team at this point, you know, and I could sell that team basically to the next highest bidder. Hey, these guys are producing like crazy. We have this great culture. We have everything built up. All the systems are working. We have our TCs and our assistants and everybody in place. We have buyers agents, listing agents, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a sellable business at that point. Otherwise,
Exactly.
your real estate business that you do yourself is not sellable. And every big business mind, Tony and all of them, Robert Kiyosaki, everybody, they always say have an exit strategy from what you're building because you might not want to do it 20 years down the road or 10 years down the road. You might be like, hey, I built this up. It's awesome. It's working. It's producing money. And I don't have to be present for it to produce money, which means now it's sellable.
Exactly. And again, not to sound like a broken record here, but that ties back to your why, right?
Yeah.
If you know why you're starting your business, for some people out there that are listening to your podcast, for example, some people are going to just want to build their business to earn what they can from it until they don't want to do it anymore and shut it down. That is perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong answer to exiting. Some people are going to want to sell it. Some people are going to want to sell part of it, stay on. There's a million different ways to go with it. But there's a few things you have to do. You have to understand what you want out of it right from the start to be able to structure it the right way. I'll give you a quick example, and this wasn't so much related to my real estate aspect of my career, but to the financial services side. Okay. A few years ago, I decided to go back into production on the financial advice business. Okay. It wasn't because I wanted to sit down and make X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or millions a year or anything. It was because I had a very specific need. My mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and I knew that I was the only person that could be there to help care for her. And I knew it was going to be for several months, perhaps a few years. That ended up being about 3 years. Okay. My business was not designed for just max profit. My business was designed to get what I needed from it financially while giving me the flexibility and the time that I needed. But with that, I knew I didn't want to keep it going afterwards. I love financial advice. I spent 25 years in it, but I was not the guy that wanted to be in sales all the time. So I built that business specifically for resaleability. Okay. It never focused just on me, but the story of why I was doing it generated so many leads that I actually sold that business 3 years later for more than triple what I anticipated selling it for and what I had designed it for. Because again, I just focused it on my values. I didn't focus on numbers. I focused on why I was doing it, and I let that become the story behind the whole business. And I built everything in the business to run without me. And that's really the key. If you can build your business in a way that it can run without you, whether it's for 2 weeks while you're on vacation or 6 months or a year, it doesn't matter. If you can build that business to run without you, you've now got a saleable business.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm trying to head that way with all my businesses. And we started this year. I have a great coach, Mitch. He's over on Space Coast. You might even know it, Mitch Rebuck. It's a pretty big name in coaching and in real estate. And I interviewed him, and he's like, Vince, I'll take you on. And he took me on, and he's helping me develop the systems and get everything rolling and make sure that it can be a sellable business. My goal is not to sell it; it's legacy. But I want to make sure that it can run without me. And then when I'm ready to give over the mantle to my kids or whoever wants to take over from my family, I'll be able to just, hey, all you need to do is what I'm doing right now. And we switch positions, and I'll be above that person as the big CEO and make sure that person's doing the right stuff with the managers and whatnot. But it's my dream to make sure that everything's running smoothly. My charity's taken care of at the same time, and construction is going right, and real estate is working hand in hand with the construction. Mortgages are going out, and all that stuff under one umbrella. We can create this basically enterprise where we branch pretty much or put everything under one umbrella and help people the way I think is right.
Yeah. And again, coming back to what you just said, the way you think is right, because it's your values that are going to drive that, right?
Yeah,
you got to build a business you're proud of. Otherwise, it becomes work. And when I say it becomes work, I mean, beyond the actual activities, it becomes something you dread, and you start working for the business instead of it working for you again.
Yeah.
And the one thing that, and I know you didn't mention this, but I'm sure your coach is probably working with you on it. The one thing that everybody should be doing is, if you're even considering your business exit planning, you really should invest the money in getting a good, solid business valuation every few years, because that's really going to tell you, A, are you on track? And B, what can you expect to get from it? I've worked with a couple of different business valuation companies, one in particular that I love. We're working with a client of mine right now that they've built everything under an umbrella, but what they've discovered through this valuation process is the business has more value right now if they split it apart to sell it, which is actually really interesting. It made a lot more sense throughout the entire business building process to build it as an enterprise, as a conglomerate. But it's got far more value selling it as individual pieces. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now is, how do they start making that shift while they're still in an ownership role to make the business more attractive for sale?
Got you. Yeah. That totally makes sense as long as you're looking for an exit strategy. My end was legacy, although it would make a lot of sense to feel out how much it's worth and to get a really cool aspect of, hey, your company's worth $1 million or 2 million or 10 million or 50 million or 100 million, whatever it is. That's good for you to know that, hey, I am sitting on this. If there's an emergency, I can basically pack it up and package it and sell it the way it makes the most money.
Not only that, but that actually brings up a really great point. And I know this we're getting slightly off topic,
It's
but I think it's valuable to everybody that's listening, because when we start talking about real estate, we start often talking about very large numbers, right?
yeah.
And if you're building a business with that much value behind it, even if your plan is legacy and not sale or retirement or what have you have to think about what kind of legacy you're leaving behind to the people you're leaving it to, because the reality of the world is that depending on how you own it, so depending on your business structure, you may be leaving very significant tax implications to your loved ones. So I have seen, as a financial advisor, I've seen dozens and dozens of times in my life where somebody built a very valuable business and they left it all to their child or a couple of kids or their spouse or something like that. And with the spouse, it's not so much of an issue, at least here in Florida, community property, all that. But if you're leaving it to a non-spouse beneficiary, like a child or a couple of kids, if you've got an estate that's including the value of that business, and we're talking tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, I've seen people have to sell the business in a fire sale to be able to pay the taxes that they owe because of what mom or dad did for them.
So for that
Okay.
structure, I've been thinking about that, by the
Yeah,
way.
good.
Few attorneys, I'll tell you that. So we got some good answers, and it's all in building asset protection and estate.
Absolutely. Yep.
Estate planning and asset protection, and then bringing them into the estates. And that's the way you can avoid that trickle down taxation effect if it's the children that are inheriting it. Get to the point where, okay, now I have enough money to do the estate stuff because it has to be at a certain value, or you have to be at least at a certain value to make sense for it to do it. Everybody says, oh, you should do it from the beginning. You should do it from the beginning. Yeah, you're going to spend 10 grand on something that's like kind of fictional in the beginning. You don't have that many assets to be sued for. But when you actually have $5-10 million company, it makes a lot of sense to start doing that.
Yeah.
Even if it's a million plus, I think it makes sense. But in the
Exactly.
beginning, yeah, let's go with the flow first. Let's see what it goes.
Exactly. But knowing what your end game is or what you want it to be, with the reality that none of us know when that end game could come, because we all could go at any moment, unfortunately, not to be morbid. There's more than one answer to that, right? So some of the solutions like that you're alluding to, absolutely. 10, $20 million businesses, man, there's definitely a lot of things you got to do. Even those of you who have smaller businesses, though, your listeners that aren't at that level yet, there's a lot of different structures out there. And what I like to tell everybody is go find advice that's going to align with what your ultimate goal is, right? Because the one size solution doesn't work for everybody, right? The guy who's got $1 million business is going to need a completely different set of solutions than the guy who's got a $10 million. And he's going to have a different set than a $50 million or $100 million business.
Yeah, and if there's a protection, et cetera, that goes hand in hand with more wealth, more level of protection. So they can't pierce your estates and you can't lose your stuff.
Exactly.
That's really important, guys. Like you always have to think about protection as well as your insurances, basically. Besides the fact of building the business. Yes, built a great business. Guy falls off a ladder, breaks his back. Next thing, attorney's knocking on your front door, and here's a $10 million lawsuit, and you just lost everything because you're not protected. So it's really
Exactly.
important to put those protections in place while you're growing. Every growth phase, you can talk to attorneys, and each attorney will tell you, like, when you reach this much, you should do this. When you reach this much, you should do this. When you reach this much, you should do this. There are different levels of protection on every level.
Yeah.
At first, you get like a good insurance policy, general liability or something like that. That's like your number one. That's your basic protection. Protects you from people walking on your job sites or tripping on something and telling you like, oh, or the hot coffee instance with McDonald's, pouring hot coffee on them if you're a restaurant. Or come on, man, you don't want to lose your whole life's work because somebody poured some hot coffee on themselves.
Exactly. And that's why finding the right guidance there is so important, and making sure that it aligns with what your purpose is, making sure that you have that, because those structures are different at every level, but they're important at every level, and they all tie together towards the end game, right? Because it's not usually so much that you have to change strategy and stuff like that. It's more that you have to add to it. maybe with some tweaks along the way. But if you know where you're trying to go, you know what solutions are going to help you the best on the way to get there.
Yeah, and make sure you do the correct format and you have a crystal clear vision of what you want to achieve with it. Because a lot of the estate planning will have clauses that will take effect in certain points in life.
Exactly.
So if children are coming in or anything like that. Oh, now they became 18. They want to go to college. You could put a clause in there that says we will release $100,000 for a college fund if you pick XYZ college and study XYZ subjects. You can build that into your estate and say, look, this is how we structured it. If you want to go major in art, that's not paid by the business. If you want to go be an architect or doctor, we'll pay for it. Like, you get where I'm coming from. You can control that motion of things even after you pass, which is amazing, I think. Like, having that, look, this was my plan for you, and I think this is the best route for you. I've known you since you were born. You don't even know what you want to be. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was 8. Hell no, I had no clue what I'm going to be. That's why I'm in real estate now. I haven't really, because I didn't know what I wanted to be, so I didn't go to college. And it was my dad said, I think it's the right decision because you have no clue what you want, so you can't really study for something that you will probably not like, or you don't know what you get. What I'm saying. Spending 4 years on some degree that you will regret is not worth it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I went back as an adult and got my degree. I never did it after high school either.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I did it while working full time like a crazy person.
That's what I did. I went straight into the bar business and became a bartender because I liked slinging drinks and I liked parties. So I was like, I know how to do that. I'm going to do that. But bartending got me where I am. Like the stepstones from bartending and learning customer service and all that stuff got me to become a good realtor, a great realtor. And then as I grew in real estate, got better and better at customer service. I think that's really good. So what are the biggest operational breakdowns inside real estate teams and brokerages? And what are the top bottlenecks you end up fixing for them?
So in the real estate world specifically, it's typically a misalignment in values. You typically have one person on the team who, I shouldn't say typically, but you'll have somebody on the team that has a different set of priorities and values and who their target is. I've worked with real estate teams that really tried really hard to be a good residential real estate team because they liked each other and they were both top performers. But in reality, they didn't align at all. They didn't align with how they wanted to do business, how they wanted paperwork done, how they wanted their operations staff to work. So when they got together, and then you've got some poor assistant or a couple of assistants in the mix, and person A wants it done this way, person B wants it done that way. The first person wants to use this CRM system. The second person wants to use this CRM system, but use tasks instead of notes, and all these things. They seem insignificant when you're just talking about them, but they compound greatly because if you're the name and the face of the business and you're not still at that point in your career where you're doing the task work, the administrative stuff, the person who is all those things that seem small and insignificant to you, that is their job. That is their world. And if you don't take care of them, they're not going to perform at their best level for you. And what do? You end up having to be a babysitter instead of a leader. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. If you can't give your team clear instructions, and especially if you're part of a real estate team where there's more than one of you that is the name and the face, you've got to make sure all those priorities are in line. Again, going back to your values, because if you don't, nothing's going to align for the team that's trying to execute it. And you can't even agree on tech and how to use tech, because let's just call it like it is. We all have a CRM system. Doesn't matter which one you're talking about. Every single one of them can be used in multiple different ways. Okay. What may seem like basic, anybody should know it information to me might be completely different than the way you're doing it, for example. And we might even be running on the same CRM system.
Yeah.
But if your team can't recognize that and can't get clear direction from you, then how do they know where to go? So what ends up happening? They get frustrated. They need to be babysat. They need to run every question through you, which becomes the big bottleneck. So back to your question of what's the bottleneck? That's usually what causes it. A complete lack of direction, because then every decision has to focus back through you as a leader. And if you can't delegate decisions because there is no clear framework for doing so, you're going to be the biggest bottleneck. And that is what I see as the biggest bottleneck in real estate.
So basically, what you're saying is come up with clear systems and clear guidelines for how you want the business to run before you make the decision of putting people in positions in the business. And, oh, we'll just wing it and they'll figure out what to do. No, that's your job, but you're the boss. Figure it out, and then let them just do what you tell them to do. Correct?
Well, that's right. Because in real estate, especially, I think real estate is probably one of my favorite examples as far as industries go for this. When we start, most of us start off as a one-person show, right? We may have a little support, but for the most part, it's just us, and we're doing a lot of things ourselves. You really have to be able to shift from that doer mentality of I have to do it, I have to do it, I have to make the decisions, to the architect mentality, where you say, let's design a system so that I know things are going to be done the way I want them done based on my value system, how I want my clients interacted with. How do I architect a system where other people can operate in that system and make the decisions I would make? And that's exactly it.
So much sense, my friend. That is putting yourself from the business guy to architect mindset, the owner. And these are my scripts. Use these scripts, please. Here are my systems. This is how we touch each client each day or week or whenever, depending on. Then you create the brackets for your clients. This is a hot lead. It's an A lead. This is how many times we touch them every day. If it's a hot lead, we shoot them a text, we give them a phone call, blah, blah, blah. And you write those down and make the system that what you really do that works. Basically, this is just taking a week of your time, and whatever you do that week, just write everything down. That's what it is, no? Like, end of the day, if like you're a successful agent and you're making a killing and you're getting a lot of leads and you're rolling them over and closing them, it's taking notes of what you're doing during the processes and writing it down. And basically, when your phone asks you every night, my phone asks me every night, what happened today in your day? That's pretty much what it is. You take your notebook out and just jot it down. What did you do? How did you do it? What did you say? Why did you say that? And then you have your systems in place. No?
That's right.
A lot of us don't do that. I am guilty of not doing that, like not taking notes. And I know that if I would have started taking notes 5-6 years ago, when I was starting to get better and better at real estate, I would have a clear system, and it would be basically sellable. Here's my book on how I built my business from doing 1 or 2 sales a year to doing 50 sales a year. And then you have a clear vision and plan on how you did it, and you just have to. No?
Yeah, exactly. You're talking standard operating procedures, right? That's exactly what it is. And then even when you start getting into higher level decisions, when you yourself find yourself going, I have to choose between this or this. It's not so much a follow the procedure, but it's a choice that has to be made. Sit down and document what factors did you use to make that decision and which ones did you weight as more important? Because when you start doing, that's when you can train somebody else to step in and make the higher level decisions with you as well. And I say with you at first, but then the ultimate goal, of course, being that once you're comfortable with their thought process, that they take over those things. It allows you as a leader to move on to either more freedom or to go back to doing the parts of the business that you love the most. And I think that's what we really all want, right? There's certain aspects of every job that we all love and some that we don't love, but we have to do, right? So what would life be like? Ask yourself that. Everybody that's listening to this, ask yourself what it would be like if you could only do the parts of your job that you like doing and somebody else did all the other stuff. Who wouldn't want to be paid hundreds of dollars an hour for that, right? If your business is paying you that. That's the dream, in my opinion. And you said something else I want to just touch on real quick. Note taking, I think, is huge. Okay. I've always loved it. I'm old school. I was in high school before the internet was a thing. We'll just call it that. Okay. But if you're somebody that embraces technology, don't underestimate the power of these AI tools. And I don't care if it's the ones from Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, it doesn't matter. I have a ChatGPT thread that literally is just a journal. And I sit down and I hit the dictate button and I just sit there and talk to it. And I talk about what happened today. And I flip through the notes I have on my desk and the little Post-it notes and everything else. And I just talk. I don't even put it in paragraph formats. And then later I go back and say, okay, hey, what ideas can we pull out for marketing the business? What What did we see was the common theme among all the clients this week? And that's where all the insights come from, really.
Oh my God. Using ChatGPT to take notes and then have it summarize it for you. That
That's
is amazing.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yep.
That just makes journaling so much easier.
Yeah. And again, I use ChatGPT because as the example, because that's what I use, but it doesn't matter if it's Claude or Gemini or Copilot. It doesn't matter. They're all good. They all do it very well.
That makes so much sense. And the way to use, so I use Sintra and I use
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And Sintra, I have my team of little helpers, and they ask me questions all day long. But, hey, the 10 questions to help me grow my business. And then they give amazing advice. And I'm like, God, how much would that cost me if I were to hire a consultant to give me the same advice as I just got from my little buddy, whatever the name is, Dexter or whichever one. And I came to the conclusion that this would cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Because back in the day when I started doing real estate, they had Fiverr already. I used to ask Fiverr people to help me write my descriptions for my listings to make it like the bomb description, $5, $10, whatever. They wrote a description for me. I took it and I put it in. But the work it took me to get them to write me that description, like literally took me an hour of research and putting things together to send them the information of what to write the description on. I'm like, really, an hour of work just to get somebody to get back with me with a description.
Yep.
And because I want to give that extra service to my clients. Now you have the opportunity in your hands in the format of AI and amazing descriptions beating my copywriters all day long. And you have it in front of you. You can use it. It's free. But it's not, you'd have to pay for it in some cases. I pay for my chat and I pay for Sintra. But it depends on if you're just starting out and you want to get a copyright, what kind of ad could I put out for my pressure washing business? Hey, chat, could you please help me? I live here and I'm starting a pressure washing business. Could you help me write some ads that I could post on Facebook and then what I can post on Instagram? What should I do? And it will give you an outline of what you need to do. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is, as long as you understand the limitations of it, right? Like it's phenomenal at summarizing things. It's great at making your words sound the way you want them to sound, right?
Correct.
Yeah, by definition, it can't be creative, if that makes sense. Yeah. So a lot of times you still have to have the right expertise in the right areas to come in and help your business at certain points. But I do think that, especially if you're starting out and you're looking for the support without the cost of full-blown assistant or even a virtual assistant, you're right. There's so many AI tools that can really be game changers for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I bet you have it built into your system, too, in a way, probably already.
Yeah. And when you were talking about building standard operating procedures, I worked with one financial practice that's also here in Florida, and they didn't have standard operating procedures. And I said, look, just literally tell this thing. I said, hit the dictate button and talk your way through what you're clicking on the screen as you go through each process. And we're talking simple things like how to send a check out of a client's account. And it would literally document the whole thing. And it gave a nice step-by-step. And if you say, in this case, if it's this type of account, remember to check for this other field, it built that into the standard operating procedures. This financial practice didn't have to sit down and type a single thing. She literally, the advisor just sat there and talked while she clicked on the screen and said what she was clicking on.
Wow. Yeah. And then nice folder, boom, blang. Here you go. Next person that's coming into the job. Here's our standard operating procedures. Follow the step-by-step guideline. Yeah. That makes so much sense.
Exactly. That's exactly how we trained our new staff, because one of the things that we did was we eliminated somebody who was underperforming and brought in new virtual assistants. That's exactly how we brought in the virtual assistants and said, this is how you do the job.
Wow. I need to do that. So for the agents and brokers listening who feel overwhelmed or owner dependent, what are the first simple shifts that immediately reclaim time and restore balance?
The first thing that they're going to want to do is, again, make sure you understand your own value. And I was going to come back to that first, but then sit down and do a real in-depth assessment, take an honest look at yourself and your business and say to yourself, okay, every single thing I do for a day or a week or what have you, write down every single thing you do and say, do I actually have to do this? Or is this something that I could create a standard operating procedure for and have somebody else do? Okay. Now, whether that somebody else is an AI assistant, a virtual assistant, an in-person assistant, or operations manager, or what have you, that all can be tackled with figuring out what the role is going to look like. But the first thing is to give an honest assessment and say, do I actually have to do this? Or am I just doing it because I'm the only person that I trust right now to do it my way? Just because you're the only person that you trust to do it does not mean you're the only person capable of doing it.
Yeah. My coach did that to me. And he was like, Lancelot, look at this sheet. And it was like really long, like 3-4 pages long. And he's like striking through it. It's like, this is all $10, $15 hour job. You're not supposed to be doing these. Why are you filling orders for your clients? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Is all jobs that could be hired out. So you could take the position of being the CEO and coming up with the new ideas for the business instead of going through the list of, it's like a honey-do list, basically. Like, why are you doing that stuff? You hire an assistant. Data entry was like the number one thing. I do a lot of data entry and spreadsheets, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, why are you freaking taking 3 hours a day in doing spreadsheets for products that you purchased for a construction site?
Mm-hmm.
That's not your level. You should be.
No, it's really not. When you stop and ask yourself, like, what do I pay myself out of the business? And I don't care if you pay yourself $50 an hour or $500 an hour. Okay. The point is, if you ask yourself, what do I pay myself out of the business? Or what do I want to pay myself out of the business? If you're not quite there yet. And let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say you want to pay yourself $250 an hour. Ask yourself with every single task, is that something I would pay somebody else to do $250 an hour for?
Correct.
I'm going to take a wild guess you would not pay somebody $250 an hour to do data entry. Am I right?
No. It's your work.
But you're paying yourself that, or actually less than that, because it's eating away from what generates that $250.
Correct. And instead of going out there and shaking hands and kissing babies and meeting people or whatever you need to do to make money, you are now sitting at home in front of a computer and entering lines and lines of data into a system. I was like so shocked when he like, you see what you did here? You see what you did there? And it's incredible. And it took me the week. I was dredging that week. Like, every time I wrote something down, I was like, God, really? Like, I'm looking at it and I already know when I'm writing it down. But, and this is the thing. Scalability, of course, we were talking about it. You don't need to hire someone full time and pay them $2,000-$3,000 a month in the beginning. You could hire someone for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, a virtual assistant or someone else or an assistant who will come in and do it a couple hours a day and pay them $300 a week. Because there are plenty of people out there that don't want a full time job, that just want to make an extra few $100 a week and they're happy with it. And that was my limitations. I can't afford it. I can't afford an assistant. I can't afford this, that. And then the coach opened my eyes on it. It's like, dude, you don't need to spend the money that you have in your head, because I'm looking at things like I would be getting paid for it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then when it's just hard to figure out how much I want to pay someone for that kind of job. And so this is a really good thing to have ChatGPT for, by the way. Okay, Mr. Chat, how much does a person get paid for data entry? And it will give you, in your area, they pay $10 to $15 an hour, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so I'm not talking $50 an hour. I could afford $10 to $15 an hour. That's a coffee or 2 coffees. Like I could pay that and take this load off my shoulders.
Absolutely. And beyond that, you have to ask yourself, what did it cost you besides the money?
Yeah.
If you're sitting there in the evening after dinner for 2 or 3 hours on your computer typing data in, what is that costing you with? We all have other obligations. We have friends, family, kids. What's it costing you?
Yeah, definitely. It takes time away from your life that could be done by someone else for nominal fee.
Exactly.
And you get into the higher salaries when you're looking at operations managers, and where you're like paying bigger monies because now he is or she is in charge of a whole team. So they need to obviously get paid more because now they have to have all the knowledge that all those people have and know how to direct them and show them the path. But at this level, this is, hey, level one, entry level job, like flipping burgers at McDonald's. That's why I love their business model, because it's like, hey, we buy the land, we lease it back to you, and then you hire a couple of teenagers to flip burgers in the back for $10, $15, $20 an hour, and you're making thousands and thousands of burgers. It's insane. You don't need a chef that takes 80,000 or 100,000 a year, because everything is, they have the procedures down and you just flip the pages and this is how you do a cheeseburger. This is how you do and it's the same thing in your business. You have the jobs in your business that are requiring that kind of help. Like the data entry, like literally sit down. Here's a keyboard. You know how to type? Yes, I know how to type. Okay. That's all I need to know, that you know how to type. You know how to read? Yes, I know how to read. Okay. So you're going to read this, and whatever's on this piece of paper needs to go in there. And that's the job. Like, literally don't need more than maybe elementary school nowadays for that, really. But
Yep.
yeah, that's
if that's what your business model is long term, that is the only caution I would throw into that, is that if you're trying to just get a quick, easy fix to, say, a data entry job, right?
Yeah.
You're 100% right. Couldn't agree with you more. If you're looking for something where you want someone to grow into it, it's a whole different perspective now on hiring, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I say hiring, that doesn't mean you have to offer everybody a 40-hour-a-week job. Okay. And if you're working with a coach, a good coach is going to have the connections in the industry and know people who are doing exactly what you're talking about, like the virtual assistant work. Okay. But a lot of those want to find their home, if you will. That's how the practice I was talking about before. That's exactly how we got one of her new assistants in. Was this assistant had been working with multiple advisors around the country virtually, looking for the one where she felt valued and where she could make a home for full time. Within 6 months, the business had grown enough. Once we got things straightened out, the practice had grown enough that the advisor was able to hire her on full time. She was able to walk away from the ones that she didn't want to be in and be with this advisor full time. She's now at director level with them, and she is training the new staff, and she is in charge of all client communication as well. So it really becomes a growth play as well. So I agree with you. There is the short-term easy fix. If that's all you need is data entry, it doesn't matter who you hire. Okay. But if you want to have someone that could potentially grow into your business, so many of us think that we have to hire up front for that mentality, and we don't. We live in a digital world. You can totally do that as a slow step in, just like you would if they were sitting in your office with you.
Yeah. Hire slow, fire fast. That's
Coach up and coach out quickly. Definitely.
You spend a lot of money on the coaching part, like figuring out and training and all that stuff. It costs a lot of money and time from you, because now, as we've spoken about it earlier, you're $250 an hour guy. Now you're spending your $250 an hour on training a guy or person for a $15 hour job.
That's why you got to make sure it's worth it.
10 hours on, that's $2,500 of your time spent on a $15 an hour person to train, until you have built up a big enough company where you have a trainer on site that trains these people, so you don't have to do it.
Exactly. But then you still got a cost there. If you're paying a trainer $80,000 a year, that's still a lot of money. Right? But that's why it always comes back down to what I say about clarity, right? Because the clarity is what's going to drive the decisions. The trust is going to fuel the team, and the structure is going to support the freedom that you're going after.
Got you. That's a golden nugget, guys. Take it down. For someone listening who wants to grow without burning out, what's the first 30-day playbook you recommend?
Aside from my own book? No, listen. There's two books I always recommend to everybody, okay? One I have nothing to do with. It's the E-Myth Revisited. It's a phenomenal book. Also, my book, Follow the Star, because I think that whether you're starting a business or managing a business, either way, those principles are important. Now, what does your first 30 days look like? First 30 days has got to be about doing an honest assessment, okay? And when I say honest assessment, you can't sit down and look at what you've got on paper and pat yourself on the back. You have to be able to say to yourself, that could have been better, and I made a bad decision because, okay, you've really got to look at that, whether you're talking about the marketing, the tools, the team, it doesn't matter. Any aspect of your business, you have to really look at and say, could this be better? You have to make that decision first. Then you have to say, is this aligned with the rewards that I want to get out of my business? Okay. It's like taking the S and the R that at the beginning of the and the end of STAR and saying, is one leading to the other? Then figure out the middle part. Because for some people, you may have a great team that's already aligned with your value system and they just need to tweak how they're using the tools. For some of you, may have all the tools, but not the right people in place. And for some people, it just could be a complete misalignment. I know I see this some in real estate. I see it more in financial services than I do real estate. But people will go to these conferences that we all go to, whether it's networking, whether it's with a broker dealer, whatever the case may be. And they hear somebody on a stage talking about how many hundreds of millions of dollars they made this year. And so then everybody in the audience feels inadequate and sets their goals to get there. If your business model isn't designed for that goal, and if your value system isn't aligned for that goal, you're just wasting your time.
Got you.
So,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because here's the sad reality of coaching, even, and not to shoot down what I do, but there's so many people out there that have got all the answers. They're going to give you some 5 steps or 10 steps to coaching that's going to just make your business be better than anything you could have imagined. And they fail. They fail far more often than they succeed. They fail for a couple reasons. One, a lot of coaches have absolutely no experience besides coaching. They haven't actually done the business. Okay. That's a sad reality of the world.
So many of those out there. Yeah. Get rich quick.
Right. And the other component of that is that when you're looking at why coaching fails is that so many of them are a template that say you can just walk in and put this on your business and it's going to succeed. To use a real estate analogy, you can't just walk in with a set amount of furniture and expect it to fit in every house. You walk in with 4,000 square feet worth of furniture in a 1,000 square foot house, you're going to have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have the foundation and the structure in place that matches what you're trying to do. And that's where a lot of that fails. And that's where the biggest problem is in the first 30 days, where people start out excited and then drop off because none of that is aligned.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Total misalignment. It could be different. It could be just, this is not really your gig.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, it might not be your bread and, like, you think that you're a good real estate agent and everything, but it might not be the fit for you. It might not be your ideal business to build. You got to figure out, because if you create your vision board and your wants and your needs and everything like that, and it's misaligned. I love charity a lot. I love giving back, and I do scouting now a lot with my kiddo and help out on committee meetings and committee chair and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoy doing that, and it makes me feel fulfilled when I'm doing that. I wouldn't be able to do it without the financial backing of my businesses. I wouldn't have the time to do it, probably, but that makes me happy. So how can I turn my business into a machine that will pump out stuff so I can achieve my goals? And I know that my business in real estate and also in construction is service-based. I'm happy to do service. Even Scouts is service-based because that's what I do. I'm there. So that kind of aligns with my personality, the whole business. But not every, so some people are really good with their hands. They would be great mechanics or something, but they decide it looks like real estate. I could make a lot of money fairly quickly because I could go and just sell some houses. It might not be your job, or it might not be the business that you should be in, because if you could be a great mechanic, but you're horrible speaking with people, it might not work out. But if you would focus on your mechanic side of things and figure out how to get more money clients, because that's what usually it is. You cap yourself because let's say you're fixing Toyotas. I'm really good at fixing Toyotas, but the money's really in fixing a Ferrari. Because you go and fix a Ferrari and you make the money for half a year. When you're fixing a Toyota, you have to fix 100 Toyotas to get the same amount of money. So that might be the thing where you have to focus on. You're really good at this, you're a really good mechanic, then focus on how you can upgrade your skills to a different level where you can make more money, because now you can do better quality fixes on more expensive vehicles. That's just an
Exactly.
analogy for like a mechanic, but you could put this analogy on pretty much any field as long as you can figure out how to grow yourself to the next level.
Exactly. And again, knowing where you're starting from, I'll give a quick example that aligns exactly with what you're saying. I worked with someone who couldn't figure out why her real estate business just was plateauing, for lack of a better way of saying it. It really had a lot of ups and downs, but her residential real estate, okay, she wanted to be in residential real estate because she wanted to make money, but she didn't stop to think about what her values were aside from the money. And she would get very upset, for lack of a nice way of saying it, with clients for bothering her on weekends and things like that. Any of us who've been anywhere near residential real estate, especially if you're targeting that starter home type of listing, you're probably going to get a lot of that, because a lot of those people, not to stereotype and not to say everybody's like this, but a lot of that demographic is working full time. They're going to be looking at houses in person and on the internet on nights and weekends. Okay. When I was selling residential real estate, that was one thing I had to adjust to. But for her, she really wanted the time with her kids. She was a single mom and she really wanted the time with her kids. So she thought, oh, real estate's an easy way to make a lot of money to support my kids. But she didn't stop to think about what she'd be losing from a time perspective. So for her, it wasn't so much that she wasn't good at it or that we needed to find her a different career. We needed to just change her business model a little bit. What we actually did was we got her, because she loved real estate, we actually got her into the commercial side of it.
And that's a 9 to 5.
Commercial was way more Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and away you go.
Yeah.
But it was just that she hadn't stopped to look beyond where she was. She just assumed it was a problem with her business. And it really wasn't. It's just that she didn't have her values aligned with her real values beyond the dollars, aligned with what she wanted out of the business. When she started telling me she needed the time and she needed to be able to support her family, that became a whole different conversation at that point. And she still gets to do the parts of real estate that she loves. She loves interacting with people and helping people solve a problem. So she gets to do that. Now she works about 30, 32 hours a week, loves what she does, and she's okay.
Yeah, and that's a perfect for real estate analogy. I know I brought up the mechanic, but this is a real estate podcast. So thank you for that.
That's why we're a team here today, my friend.
Yes, exactly. Can you explain the difference between an outward growth and an upward growth?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. What was that?
Oh, can you explain the difference between an outward growth and an upward growth?
Oh, yeah. So I always like to say that I like to use sort of two analogies there, upward versus outward, right? So upward is you're getting better. You're making more. Okay. Outward is you're just spreading yourself thinner. You're offering more out there. I also like to call that scalability versus inflation. Okay. If you're inflating your business, you're just bringing more in. That doesn't necessarily mean you're improving. Same with outward. Doesn't necessarily mean you're improving. Upward is scalable. Upward is where the exponential benefits come in. Okay. And again, whether that's time, whether that's money, whether that's the feeling you get from doing something you love, that's where the upward growth and the scalability come in.
Got you. Joe, this has been eye-opening and amazing, and thank you for what you're giving back to the community, and thank you for your book. Your STAR Scalability Framework gives real estate professionals a roadmap to grow smarter, not harder, and most importantly, without burning out. To our listeners, if you're ready to break through your ceiling and build a business that can actually scale, make sure you follow Joe on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and grab a copy of his new book, Follow the Star, Unlock Monumental Business Growth, available now on Amazon. If you found value in today's episode, hit subscribe and share this with a real estate leader who needs to hear it. Really important. This is Lancelot Lenard, your host of the Real Estate Roundtable, where real leaders come together. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.